Hello, my name is Ted Hulsy. I'm Vice President of Marketing at eFolder and your host for today's event. Welcome to the eFolder Expert Series. This webinar series brings together experts from eFolder's staff and partner community for deep dive technical discussions on key service and technical issues. Today's presentation is a live demo of eFolder Cloudfinder. Today we are joined by Jonas Robledo, sales engineer with eFolder. Before we go through the agenda, let's cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar will be made available on eFolder's YouTube channel. We will also make copies of the slides available to those who registered for the event. With over 330 people registered for today's session, we have put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it onto your computer or by dialing in over the phone. Questions are strongly encouraged throughout today's presentation. We have planned a special Q&A section at the end of today's discussion, but you may submit them as we go along, and we will try to address your questions on the fly. Today's presentation follows a logical flow. First, we will discuss the market forces, especially the shift to cloud applications. We will then introduce eFolder Cloudfinder, a product designed to do backup, search, and restore for leading cloud applications. Next, Jonas will take us through a guided demo and the use cases for Cloudfinder. And finally, we will discuss how you can get started with Cloudfinder today. Now let me introduce Jonas. Jonas Robledo is a sales engineer at eFolder, specializing in cloud-to-cloud backup and file sync solutions. Jonas has spent the bulk of his career in technical roles, helping customers and partners succeed with technology decisions and implementations. Jonas has worked at organizations such as SonicWall, PacketTrap, Quest Software, and Dell. Jonas, thank you for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you, Ted. First, we're going to cover the market forces. We'll just get started right away. We know that people are moving to the cloud. It is projected that $180 billion will be spent on cloud services and SaaS solutions by 2018. This year alone, in 2014, the United States has spent $13 billion on the same services and managed host environments. And this year, 2014, is also the first year where the majority of business data is actually in the cloud. It's about 51% now. 80% of the businesses surveyed have reported using some form of SaaS application in their organization. And on the right-hand side, here's the growth of those business spaces. So the blue graph there is the public cloud. That would be your Google-hosted apps and things like that. And then about almost 9% of the businesses have their own self-hosted cloud-based infrastructure. Here are the connectors that Cloudfinder actually connects to and backs up. They are Office 365, Google, of course Salesforce, and then Box. And about almost a third of all businesses have reported some data loss. This brings in some of the problems that today's businesses risk: data loss, fragmentation, and they also have to mitigate issues with compliance violations such as HIPAA and Sarbanes-Oxley as we move more workloads from on-premises to the cloud. Here's eFolder. Here's eFolder's Cloudfinder to come and save the day. It's a better way to back up the cloud. There's a small screenshot of a laptop there, and as you can see, it's very simple. There's 5 tabs on the left-hand side, and it's just that easy. We're going to walk through that and talk about Cloudfinder, and then actually log in and kick the tires a little bit. So here's just another visual representation to help you know what Cloudfinder's solution covers. So you have the 4 businesses, SaaS solutions that you rely on for your revenue. Those are Salesforce, Google Apps, Office 365, and Box. You just add the eFolder Cloudfinder, which provides secure backup, instant search, easy restore, and very intuitive reporting. It can be used as a second-side backup. We can use it for point-in-time restores. You can search across all the services with just one execution. Of course, it's tamper-proof, industry standard safe haven for the data center, and then you can easily govern the corporate data. Here are some of the logos of the corporations that are using Cloudfinder today. So you probably recognize some of those. And already we're to the key features. Cloudfinder backs up the following 4 services that we've already mentioned, and I just wanted to spend a little bit of time explaining exactly what is backed up. So for Office 365, we have your emails, your files, folders, attachments, and metadata. We can also maintain the folder structure and permissions for your Office 365 data. For Google Apps, we have backup of email, files and folders, attachments, and metadata. That includes Gmail, Drive, Calendar, Contacts, Sites. And we also maintain and we're able to restore, again, folder structure and labels. For Salesforce, we back up the records, standard objects, custom objects, emails, and files. And finally, for Box, we back up files, folders, and metadata. A little bit about our data center, Safe Haven. All this data is automatically backed up with zero possibility of deletion. There is no delete function in the data center. Its infrastructure consists of multiple redundant Amazon S3 storage architecture with server-side encryption. There's a 99.99999 durability, and of course we have the availability industry standard 99.9%. And that's just a picture of the dashboard in the background. We'll cover that in just a moment. This screenshot lets you internalize how easy it is to actually use this application. The pull-out snapshot, I'm going to move my mouse over here. This here is just a picture of how we can restore a user. You can restore the user data to the origination SaaS solution, or you can cross-pollinate. You can restore your Google data to Office 365. You can restore your Salesforce data to Office 365 and vice versa. And then you can see those all important, makes it easy for administrators to maintain the folder structure upon restore. And we also restore the sharing permissions.
Hey, Jonas,
yes,
Jonas,
sir.
Before we dive into features
Sure.
any deeper, there's a couple questions have come
Absolutely.
up.
Absolutely.
I do want to remind the audience, please ask questions as you go along. It makes it more interactive. But a couple questions have come in just around data loss with cloud applications.
Sure.
Can you just kind of talk at a high level?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Brian says, has anyone ever lost data from Google Apps or Office 365 or SharePoint? And
right. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, so if you could address that question, would be great.
Sure. And this is an excellent question. So we play nice with those SaaS services. Obviously, we know that they don't have very much downtime, and they guarantee their data. So it's not about those services and corporations losing your user data. The most common loss of data is just because of a user doesn't know they need to keep it, or they may think it's no longer useful. So they'll put it into the trash, and then as the trash gets gigs and gigs, or even some people empty their trash frequently every day, then that data is lost. Another use case for data loss would be with malintent. Occasionally you'll have employees that are not satisfied, or maybe they just, don't feel good about the business and they would delete data maliciously. That's not very common. The more common would be the original, the first case that I mentioned, where a user just thinks they don't need that data. They're trying to save disk space on their local computer and things like that. I'm sorry, in their Office 365 account, for example, they don't want gigs and gigs of data in their trash, so they'll empty it. One thing that also brings up to mind some of the vulnerabilities of those services. For almost all the Office 365 accounts, if an email is over, or any item in Office 365 is over 30 days, that data is gone. You will not be able to restore it from Microsoft after 30 days. There is the exception of the enterprise license where you can pay a very high premium to maintain a longer data history, but for most of the accounts and use cases, after 30 days, that data is gone. So Cloudfinder never deletes any data, so you can restore from any time in the past. The pain point for Salesforce is even shorter. The time window for that is 48 hours. After that, you'll have to call Salesforce and then pay a prohibitively high cost to restore the data. So I hope that gives an idea. It's not that those services are losing your data, which it has happened before. And they're very reliable for the most part. But it's more about regular users throwing things away and not anticipating that they might need it in the future. Or there's also the malicious intent that happens from time to time. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. And I guess I would mention two other things. I mean, even you know, admins either at an MSP or in an IT department sometimes make a mistake and will delete entire user accounts because an employee is departed and there may be content in that user's environment that is now needed for legal discovery or for other reasons, obviously. And then there's also the other example I think that people need to remember is sometimes the admin credentials on cloud applications get compromised by hackers or other malicious actors, and they can you know, log into the admin console, lock out other admins, and hijack the account and potentially destroy data. And that's happened in many cases. So I think the core thing to realize here is that user error is probably the #1 problem. And you know, with all of these cloud applications, there's often an enterprise option for the product that has really rich retention capabilities, but it costs an arm and a leg in most cases. And really, for most of the customers and partners we're talking to out there, they're servicing the, you know, small, medium business and mid-enterprise markets where the companies are using the SMB or kind of mid-enterprise version of these products. They don't have adequate data retention capabilities built in as a native set of features. So, so I'll let you dig back into the.
Oh, no more questions for now. We can continue.
Yeah, let me scan through them. There's a bunch.
Sure.
So I'll
stop me
right.
at any time. Thank you so
Thanks,
much. So I just wanted to jump back to the restore capabilities because a happy accident in the design of Cloudfinder comes to light, and that's using it as a migration tool. Today, your customers may be using Google Apps, for example, but what's going to happen in 4 years? Either they may switch to Microsoft Office 365, or there may be some new services which are more compelling and useful and better economics for them. So when we add those connectors, you can easily migrate all the user data straight into the application that you want to move to, or your customer decides that you want to move to. So it can be used as a migration platform as well. It can be used as an in-app restore, a point in time, so you can select a specific date that you want to restore from, and it can serve as a snapshot. You can, and we already talked about cross-user restore or cross-service restore for any type of data. Some of the companies that we deal with use all 4 of these SaaS solutions. And in those cases, there should be, in each corporation, some mandates of how a customer, how a user should save their data and where they should save their data. For example, maybe the marketing team is using Box for their data, or they're supposed to use Salesforce to enter all of their opportunities. But we know that employees don't always follow the mandates that are dealt by the corporation. So this becomes another very useful use case for Cloudfinder. We don't care which service the data is in. With one search, we can find it across all platforms, and then you can choose to restore data to any of the SaaS solutions that you choose. We talked just a bit about the instant full text search, and this is where we differentiate and we're way ahead of our competitors. All of the data that we back up is completely indexed. So when we search, we're searching across the file name, the metadata, and actually the entire contents of the file. So with any string, such as the one that's there in the back called contract, it's just in the screenshot, we'll go across all of those services and bring you the results for wherever that data may live. You'll be able to, once you set up your free trial, you'll be able to see those results wherever you are. On a very small connection, you'll see that the results come back very quickly. Whereas our competitors that don't index the data, a search can take 40 seconds or 4 hours, depending on the data set size. And there's some useful filtering widgets. I'm just mousing over them right now. We will cover those when we go log on to Cloudfinder, and you'll see it's just for ease of use. It's really intuitive. Honestly, this is my own personal opinion. Out of the whole suite of eFolder products, which are very well designed and easy to use, Cloudfinder is even easier. By the end of this call, you'll all be Cloudfinder experts. Here's a screenshot of the reporting. It's very simple and effective. So you have your timestamps there, and then in the far right column in the background you'll see green for good, completed, and then yellow for, or orange for partially completed. On the partially completed, you can just click on that and we'll demonstrate that in the demo. And it'll tell you exactly what the timestamp was of what and which service of the SaaS solution did not complete successfully. So it's a very comprehensive activity log for your backups and user activity. There's active response and real-time alerting and customized notifications. You can maintain license management. Remember earlier that we fully indexed the files, so all you would have to do if you want to find out any information about a particular license, or in the case of law firms, case number, or the medical industry, medical records, or education, you get the idea. Whatever string you want to search for, we'll crawl all of the data across all services at once. Here's a little bit about our military-grade encryption. The data is transferred over SSL. It is HTTPS standalone processes running behind a firewall. The data is behind a server-side encryption using 128-bit SSL in transit and 256 AES encryption at rest. We're certified with Trust E for privacy and security seals, and we're in compliance with the EU Privacy Directive. We're already to the demo. So at this time, I'm going to switch out to Internet Explorer, and we'll just log in. Here's the login screen. Anyone right now can just go to cloudfinder.com and then click on Login in the top right-hand corner. I encourage you to set up a free trial right now if you wish in another window and get started. But I'll just log in at this time. Any more questions? I'm sure there will be some as soon as we start stepping through the widget.
Why don't we try to take, let me just, Duncan asked, does indexing of content scrape the content of emails, and if so, are Cloudfinder or eFolder employees rather able to see the contents?
We do scan the contents of the email, so if the string that you're searching for appears in the email, then the results will come up. We will demonstrate that shortly. And no Cloudfinder or eFolder employee is able to see any of the data unless they have a login to your account, which that would mean you would have to have granted it to them. Thanks, Duncan. That was a great question. Any others, Ted?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess you're going to probably demonstrate some of this, but there's Steve wants to know, can a single email be restored when we're talking about Office 365 or
excellent?
Or,
yep.
Google Apps?
Absolutely. So here, if you're already logged in, you can play along. Just go ahead and click on search and type anything here. So let's just type email. As you can see, emails come back, calendar items come back. There's one from Salesforce. Here's the timestamp, and this one's from Google Mail. And then timestamp for Office 365. But I certainly could have used any single word, and if that would have appeared in the email, it would have behaved similarly. And oh, can we restore a particular email? Great. So here I just tick the box, or maybe I can tick as many as I wish. And then you would go to the action menu right here, and then you could restore it or export to a CSV. Let's choose restore. So this is the same interface that was displayed in the earlier PowerPoint. You decide which service you want to restore to. In this case, I'll just choose Office 365. That was the source, so I could show, that we could restore directly back to the service it came from. And then you decide if you want to restore to the source user or any user you wish. Oftentimes it's going to be the admin, but you could restore to any user you wish. So I'll just choose the admin in this case. And then here's where you want to, this makes your life a lot easier. You maintain the label structure and then restore the sharing permissions. And then you decide we'll create a new folder in Office 365 and name it whatever you wish. Here we have a suggestion for you. And then you just click proceed. It's simple as that.
So Jonas, yeah. A question that is related to this is David wants to know, could Cloudfinder be used to restore Office 365 onto a new Office 365 domain?
It can. You would have to connect two Office 365s simultaneously in the settings, and we can cover that in a bit. But yes, it can be used as a migration tool. I assume that's what you would want to do in that case. So you could get all of the data, or you could get some of the data. It's up to you.
Jonas, maybe you could talk a little bit about just kind of what the process steps are to start backing up an account or a service.
Yes, absolutely. So if you've already created a demo, a trial demo, or maybe if you're one of our partners, you would sign up for a partner account, and then you would Cloudfinder, just like Anchor and other eFolder products, is multi-tenant, so you can manage all of your customers from a single interface. So if you have that all set up, which takes like 5 minutes or so, you can go directly to settings. That would be your first step after setting up either your own personal account demo, or your purchased account, or if you set up your partner system, then you would just click on settings. And then here are all the various services that we've mentioned a few times: Google Apps, Salesforce, Office 365, and then Box. And then you would enter the administrator's login credentials, and then you decide which users you want to add to the backup. And it'll start backing up immediately. And then after the data is seeded, it will back up 3 times a day, so every 8 hours. And I can show you the users. So once you have this is what I call the connectors screen. So you would enter the administration accounts, and then we talk to those services APIs. And then once that's done, in users, you have your various services here on the left side that you're managing. So I'll just choose Office 365, and then here are my users. And I could say, Anna Smith doesn't work for the company anymore, so I'll just uncheck her. And from that point on, we'll no longer back up that data. But Anna Smith's historical data is certainly always retained forever. And then here's a little snapshot or status about the last 24-hour backups and what has completed. So it's a nice snapshot view of what's going on for this account, John Doe. This gives you another interface on how to restore the data. If you want to restore the entire account, not just individual or multi-item selections from the search function, you would go to Users, come down to the user you want to choose, and then you could click this button called Restore User. And then here's where you choose your point in time. You decide which of the services you want to restore. And then, again, you always have the option to restore to the origination user or any other user you wish. So I'll just choose Mail and OneDrive. And then here I have the choice to, I'll choose the user. And then maintain folder structure, label structure, and restoring permissions. These are other differentiators that we have over our competition. So let's examine Salesforce. It's similar. And by the way, I hope a lot of you are coming to Dreamforce next week. Ted and I and Carlo and others will be at the booth, so we can go over any questions you might have after using the product, or we can just show it to you. I'm anxious, personally, to meet all of you in person. I hope that gives, so the main point I want to drive here, there's 5 tabs here, very simple. And then to restore, there's two methods. You can go by the search function, which we examined earlier, or you can go through the user context. I'm just pausing to hear if there are any other questions, which is fine.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. Please.
Let's see here. So can you talk a little bit about, let's see, so just a question that Ralph has around the trial accounts. Does the trial include access to all public clouds, or do you need to set up a separate account for each public cloud?
The trial account is a great question. It allows you to use up to all 4 of the services. So one account can add as many of those as you wish. If you're one of our partners, you can add multiple customers that you manage, and then within each of those you can add all 4 services. So if you've already signed up, when you click on Add the Service, it'll send an email to cloudfinder.com, and then when you get the reply, you'll be able to click on Settings and then Add the Service, as we showed briefly. Here also, I just wanted to point out, if something changes, maybe the username and password changes, you would come back to Settings and then amend it to match the current data. We don't keep any of the login information anywhere. Once you establish the connection, we only keep the token. With the exception of Office 365, we do have, because Microsoft doesn't provide a very friendly API, we are forced to store the administration credentials, but it's completely encrypted, and we have no way of viewing it, we being eFolder or Cloudfinder.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Lee wants to know, can a specific mailbox folder be restored? For example, a subfolder of the inbox.
That's a great question. That's on the roadmap. It's not available today. I'll just revisit the user interface, and I'll show you a very painless workaround. So we all know about the search function. We can restore as many of those as you wish. What you check, the matches of the hits. But what I would do if I was the administrator, then I would restore right here, you only have the choice of restoring the service within the solution. So I would, let's say mail here, and then it would restore the entire mail, but you could certainly restore it to any folder you wish. So if I was the administrator, let's just say webmaster in this case, I would make a folder saying this user, or John Doe, for example. It would restore all the mail from John Doe, and then at that point, I could just, once it's back inside of, in this case, Google Apps, I could just go into my account and drag that folder wherever I wished, right? So it's an extra process. We restore all the mail in one shot, and then from there you can use the services interface to accomplish the same task. It's just one extra step. We do recognize the value of restoring an entire folder. It's just not here today, but it is on our roadmap.
So there's a couple questions, Jonas, about OneDrive. So Jack says, can we use this to back up a client that uses OneDrive only and not the full Office 365?
Right. So you're able to choose which services you back up. Let's go to Settings. And there it is. Just uncheck these, or don't check them in the first place. Right? So this would be only backing up OneDrive. And then I save settings. Thank you.
So a couple other questions. Martina wants to know just about the frequency of the backups. If everything is backed up every 8 hours, does that mean if a user can get an email and delete it in between this 8 hours, it won't get backed up?
That's true. However, we need to position Cloudfinder in everyone's mind, the intended design and the context that you think about it. I mean, once someone, and I understand these types of questions, once they see the ease of use, I mean, this is actually easier and more powerful from a search perspective than Outlook or any other solution out there to actually search your mailbox. Like, we do it faster. So everyone wants to, I can see the urge to just use Cloudfinder from now on, which I love. I love that, right? But let's talk about the frequency of 8 hours and why. In the use case you bring up, you know, if someone deleted it in the 8 hours and then emptied their trash, then of course Cloudfinder wouldn't know about it, and that makes sense. But Cloudfinder is designed as a second tier backup to your backup, right? All of these SaaS solutions are in the cloud, right? And they're all backed up. For Office 365, it's 30 days. For Box, you have your own retention settings, and so on and so on. So we're a backup to the backup. And also, you can, for the MSPs and VARs on the line here, you can position this as an insurance policy, right? It's not your immediate backup of what's going on right now, but rather to restore, you know, later on when you need that data in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other comment I would make is that, you know, we're not really, it's not data loss incidents that happen in a kind of short time window. It's user error because there's built-in short retention policies on most of these services. So, you know, an item that got deleted yesterday on Office 365 is still going to be retrievable in all versions of Office 365. The problem is the lower-end versions of Office 365, if something gets deleted, and you only discover this 30 days later or 31 days later or, you know, 33 days later, then you've got a problem. So it's really about, you know, incidents where you've got legal discovery, you've got whole accounts that have been removed by admins incorrectly, users who have deleted data they didn't think they were going to use, content that's in you know, file syncing applications like OneDrive or Box that get completely deleted, you know, whole swaths of content, and then they only discover it, you know, 15, 30, or 45 days later. That's really where you're going to have an issue. And that's where this product comes in handy, because all of that data, despite what the user has done, has been retained and is retrievable in the application.
Two more add-ons, Ted. That's absolutely correct and a great way of summarizing it. The two other comments I would have is we have plenty of other eFolder products which would back up Exchange or any other type of backup you wish for instantaneous restore. So we want you to buy those eFolder products as well. So, and then the other thing would be you can think of Cloudfinder. I don't know, most of you remember 2008, 2009 when for file sharing, Dropbox was it, right? There wasn't anything else. This is where Cloudfinder is for the SaaS backup business space. For our MSPs there on the line, this is a green field. You know, we want you to take advantage and be ahead of the curve. You know, think of Dropbox back then. It was so cool, so easy to use, and everybody was happy to sign up. That's what Cloudfinder is here today. And I expect in a few more years, you know, this business will be one of your bigger margins if you're a reseller or an MSP. That's kind of what I'm speaking to here. For the end users that are on the call, this is just really cool to have as you know, super easy tool to set it and forget it, and then it's always there. You feel safe because it always works, right? And it works quickly. So think of it as more of an insurance play for your data, and then you can use another eFolder for your instantaneous email that would be shorter than an 8-hour window. I hope that helps you think about it in the proper context. I didn't cover reports yet, and I love these questions because this is exactly what we want to do, is help you learn how to become a Cloudfinder expert. But I'm just going to click on reports while I have a brief moment, and I'm still talking to follow Ted's great questions. So here's a partially completed. I just wanted to demo this click. Right here, I can see that what was partially completed was the Salesforce backup on October 1st at 5:29. So you know exactly what happened. And that's it. The reporting's super easy and effective. Ted, should we give a time warning? According to my understanding, we have about 2.5 more minutes, 3 minutes. Is that right? Or I certainly have as much time as needed.
No, we've got more time for questions. Let's
great.
Let's see here. So Duncan wants to know, is it possible to choose which data center is being used for the backup of the cloud data?
Great. At this time, today, the data only exists in one of our data centers, but it's, of course, multiply redundant Amazon S3 servers. But we're already in progress of migrating the data to our other established data centers. The one in Canada, the one in Amsterdam, Salt Lake City. As far as making a choice, I don't know about that specific answer. I will follow up and get Duncan that answer. It's a great question and certainly something I want to communicate, to him and others.
Okay, Steve wants to know, if eFolder never deletes, how is storage capacity managed? Is there a cost for the capacity?
Great question. So for each account, so for each user account, that would be like an Office 365 account, a Salesforce account, or any of the others, we allot 30 gigabytes of data for that user. But if you're a reseller, and we have storage is cheap, we have super competitive pricing over that when you go over 30 gigabytes. And then for our MSPs, you would buy, say, like a 250 pack or a 500 pack. Those are just some examples. We have introductory solutions for if your business is not at that stage yet. But we allow, let's just take 250 pack. So that would be 250 times 30 gigabytes. We know that some of your users or a lot of your users are going to go over 30 gigabytes, but we don't care how you chop that up, right? So 250 times 30 gigabytes, you're certainly going to have people that aren't using that space. We don't care how you chop up the disk space. And then we have super competitive pricing for anything over that. I find it hard to believe, or just at this time, I find it hard to believe that you would exhaust 30 gigabytes times 250. But it's possible, I'm sure, for larger companies. The best thing to do, go ahead.
Yeah, so just some comments on pricing. The suggested eFolder works with channel partners, and so the suggested retail price of an unmanaged service is $3 per user per month per application, and that, as Jonas mentioned, it includes 30 gigabytes of included storage, and then and as Jonas mentioned, it's in most cases you'd be pooling that either at the organization level or the partner level, so it's a ton of storage capacity for most of these applications. But we do have we do have the ability to charge an overage rate on a per gigabyte basis, and Partners should consult with their salesperson to find out about that pricing, and that we leave that pricing decision up to our partners for the end user market on what gets charged for the overage above 30 gigabytes per user per month.
And Ted, could you explain how we don't have tiered pricing for our MSPs? Meaning, for our various packs, there's a certain price for 250 per user, and then when you reach 500, it's now the new lower price for all 500 users. We don't charge you the one rate for 250 and then another rate, right? As you grow in size, the price drops down for all of your users. Is that right, Ted?
That's correct. So but I think just in general on pricing for partners, please work with an eFolder account manager after today's webinar to better understand how wholesale pricing works.
Great. Any other questions? One thing I didn't really show is these other widgets. So this is the exposure. These are private, right, items, and then internal and external, and then another easy graph to check out the size. And then you can restore here as well or export the data here.
So Jonas, yeah, Duncan has another question. Is there still a charge for users who are no longer backed up actively, but whose historical data you wish to keep?
As long as the data is not over 30 gigabytes for that user, you will not incur that charge for the next, I guess it's a monthly billing cycle, I believe. So for the next month, no. You won't be charged for that user. You just uncheck it. Let's review that. So we'll show Office 365. If Anna Smith leaves the company or I don't want to back up Anna Smith, I just go like this, and now it's done. No charge for that user.
Okay. And then Steve and Richard want to know about Cloudfinder and HIPAA compliance.
It is, remember, it's not the first tier of the data, right? If you're, it's not the first tier of backup. So for your HIPAA compliance, you're relying on your first tier to be HIPAA compliant. That being said, Cloudfinder is definitely HIPAA friendly, and we're in the process of becoming fully compliant over the next few months.
Yeah,
right?
I guess,
again, this is insurance policy, right?
Yeah, just to highlight that. I mean, eFolder Backup, eFolder BDR are HIPAA compliant, and we are signing business associate agreements with partners, and our two newer products, Anchor and Cloudfinder, are not yet HIPAA compliant. And it's not because we don't. I mean, as Jonas reviewed earlier, we use, there's all sorts of built-in encryption into the product. It's that to meet the more stringent, newer HIPAA requirements, there's a lot of business process stuff that needs to be double-checked and validated and then certified such that we can then sign business associate agreements. So that's forthcoming and on the roadmap, where we'll be able to declare, sign business associate agreements for Cloudfinder. It's
just a matter of days away for Anchor. Is that not true? I think so. And then the other thing to mention is we're certainly going towards HIPAA compliance. And I don't know of any compliance which would require, the big point that that generated these questions is we don't ever throw away the data, right? Cloudfinder doesn't throw away the data, and some of the compliances state that if the data reaches a certain age, it must be purged everywhere. So, so that's where the question comes from, and we're certainly moving that way. And our CEO and the designers of Cloudfinder made the comment, we certainly asked that question, and the comment back to us was, there aren't any current compliance standards which would require things to be deleted that is younger than a year. In other words, data that hasn't existed on a Cloudfinder server for over a year. There aren't any compliances which require you to remove data that's younger than a year. And within that year, this year from today, we will be HIPAA compliant. So even though we're not HIPAA compliant today, you're not going to get dinged on it in any audit. It's not possible because we'll be there by then. Does that make sense?
Great, Jonas. I think in light of the time, I think why don't we toggle back into the PowerPoint or
Sure.
wrap up and kind of share with folks how to get started with the product?
Oh yeah, great. So getting started, for eFolder channel partners, we are a channel company. We don't sell it to the end user, except for Cloudfinder. There are free 25-user NFR licenses that you could get started on today. So you just go to cloudfinder.com/become-a-or-partner. Okay? And then for our business users, you just go to cloudfinder/freetrial.com. And then let me just jump back one more time to the web UI, the Internet Explorer. I'll open a new tab and then say cloudfinder.com. And just to remind you, those links that I showed, start a free trial right here, or for our partners, you click here. And then once you want to log in, here. I really appreciate all of your time, and the questions were awesome. That's what I like to hear when I'm giving presentations, and I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining us today. As Jonas mentioned, whether you're a business user or you're a partner, you can sign up for a free trial, and partners can sign up for a NFR account for your own business that you can use to kick the tires, try it out with your own cloud applications, and better get to know it. And the eFolder sales team will be reaching out if anyone has any additional follow-on questions. Thank you very much for joining us for today's eFolder Expert Series. And Jonas, thank you very much for sharing and driving the demo. Appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Okay, bye-bye now.